closer look at the two marriage scenes tells us that the marriage in Merry Wives of Windsor is more focused on comedic value from trickery than the marriage in Falstaff. This idea is upheld when we examine three things: the setup of the marriages themselves, and the way the comedy would be appreciated in Shakespeare's time versus in Verdi and Boito's time. Before we get into that, though, let's get an overview of the marriage scenes and their importance from my friend Danny, who's reporting from a remote location in Windsor Park, so I apologize for poor quality issues.
The scene of the show ends with the marriage between Aunt Page, or Nanetta Ford, and Fenton. Nannetta's plotline is not the most prominent story in either version of the show, though admittedly it's more significant in Falstaff. But in either case, this last moment is surprisingly important to both shows, and highlights the difference between the original and the adaptation. And normally, this seems more important in Falstaff than the Merry Wives. This is because it's more representative of the entire show's themes, as well as more fully part of the plot. In the Merry Wives, on the other hand, the entire Anne Page plot feels like a lead-up to this one joke about men marrying women that are actually boys, more than anything else or having any depth.
With the importance of the scenes noted, let's dive in and examine the setup and the marriage in Merry Wives of Windsor to see what the bard had in mind for his young lovers and the outside suitors. Elena, you're up.
In Merry Wives of Windsor, Aunt Page had three suitors: Fenton, Slender, and Dr. Chaos. Her father wants her to marry Slender because he's well-landed and comes from a nice family, while her mother wants her to marry Dr. Chaos because he's wealthy, but no one supports her marriage to Fenton. No one wants Aunt Page to marry Fenton. Master and Mistress Page both try to find a strategy to get their way and get their suitors to marry Aunt Page. During the prank with the fairies on Falstaff, both of Anne's parents order their preferred suitors to elope with Anne. Master Page tells Slender to look for the person dressed in the white dress in the forest, while Mistress Page tells Dr. Chaos to look for the person dressed in green, both aiming for their daughter to elope with their preferred suitor. They both steal away a person dressed in their respective colors, but they are not Aunt Page. Instead, Fenton steals Aunt Page away during Falstaff's exorcism. In Merry Wives of Windsor, Aunt Page is supposed to be the fairy queen, but in order to hide from her suitors, she doesn't take the role.
That was a great explanation of the setup and a quick look at the results too in Merry Wives of Windsor. The fact that both of Anne's parents were against her marriage to Fenton, and that they foiled not just Anne's parents, but two unworthy suitors as well, is worth noting. But this raises some questions. What does Anne's deception mean? And how does the actual marriage take place? For answers to these, let's give the floor back to Danny.
In the Shakespeare version, Anne escapes her parents' choices. The marriages take place off stage and the brides are carried off. We don't see the marriage, we see the trick and the consequences of that trick. This makes the scene more about the suitors that have been tricked into marrying boys, but about Anne who's finally married Fenton.
So we see that in Merry Wives of Windsor, the important facts are this. Both of Anne's parents are against her marriage to Fenton. By marrying Fenton, Anne is able to escape from her father's wishes. The marriage takes place off stage, and this gives more credence to the suitors than it does to our happy couple. This lends to the comedic value of the tricks, as we'll see later on. But for now, keep these things in mind as we look at the setup and the marriage in Falstaff.
In the opera, Slender is taken completely out of the equation. Ford tells Dr. Chaos to steal away Nanetta during Falstaff's exorcism by looking for a woman dressed in white and wearing a veil and a crown of roses. But Nanetta is snatched by Fenton instead, just like in the play. However, this time Nanetta's mother supports her marriage to Fenton, and she took part in making the plans for Fenton to snatch Nanetta away. However, in Falstaff, Nanetta does undertake her role. But by the time the pinching and striking against Falstaff begins, the Fairy Queen suddenly disappears.
Falstaff, on the other hand, the marriages take place on stage from center, and additionally the father is tricked into blessing this marriage, which he has sworn will never occur. Though here Nanetta doesn't escape her father, but she sticks it to him with her defiant trick. She doesn't run away in any sense. She stands her ground against him. Adding the trick against the father adds some depth to the scene, which strengthens it, helping it carry the plot to its conclusion.
The marriage of Nanetta and Fenton takes place, most notably, with the mother's approval and her assistance. And this alone is a significant change that alters the dynamics of the rest of the scene, and the impact of the comedic value from the tricks. For Nanetta's father is tricked into blessing this marriage, not only by his daughter, but by his wife. Also, Verdi and Boito's decision to put this marriage front and center on the stage gives the young lovers more importance than the woe-begotten suitor of Dr. Caius, who married a boy like he did in Shakespeare. But note that this is the opposite of the way Shakespeare's marriage scene was focused and constructed. The final difference we're going to examine between Merry Wives of Windsor and Falstaff is the way the humor would have been appreciated between Shakespeare's time and Verdi and Boito's time. They construct their humor differently because they were writing for different audiences. This helps explain why, in Merry Wives of Windsor, the comedy is focused more on what comes from the tricks than from outside sources, as we'll see in Verdi.
The humor that's been lost in the 3 centuries between the writing of the original and the writing of this version. In Shakespeare's days, the suitors complaining about marrying boys dressed as women would have been absolutely hilarious because all of the women on stage are boys dressed as women. No one actually marries a real woman in this play. In Verdi's time, the story would have funny just as it's funny now, but it loses its punch in that women are now portraying women. Adding the trick against the father helps regain some of that humor that's been lost.
Where Shakespeare relies on the boys marrying boys factor to give hilarity, Verdi is able to recapture some of this hilarity through his music. For the marriage itself, the music is soft, it's sweeping, and reflective of the romantic atmosphere. It's beautiful and gentle. To create this beautiful and gentle sound, Verdi drew on a style that was common for about 2 centuries. It's the pastoral style, which uses a 3/4 or 6/8 meter. As soon as this deception is revealed, the marriage music fades into the background and the music starts jumping up and down instead to reflect both the shock of Ford and the laughter of the rest of the cast. But the wedding music is still present. The main motif of the marriage comes back very loudly through the orchestra when the chorus sings Apotheosi, which brings the marriage back to the forefront for but a moment. This play with the music helps add to the comedic atmosphere. The music then goes staccato to match Alice's chiding of Ford, and to continue the laughing mood. This is an example of how Verdi was able to use music to add to the comedy of the show instead of relying solely on the tricks as Shakespeare did. In conclusion, they're both comedies. Both Merry Wives of Windsor and Falstaff are comedies on certain levels. They just take different approaches to their comedic value and their humor. Shakespeare relies more on the comedic value of the tricks themselves, as we've shown through an analysis of the setup of the marriages themselves, and the way humor would be appreciated in Shakespeare's time versus in Verdi and Boito's time. Verdi brings comedy in somewhat through the tricks, but also through the music, letting the music help add to the atmosphere and the laughter. All in all, I hope you enjoyed this, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye now.
Dr. Caius, what are you doing here? Come sit. So, tell me, how do you feel about the fact that Anne Page married her true love, Fenton?
Oh, the humility, the disgrace. In the play, I marry a young boy, while in the opera, I marry